Okay, so the meeting is now live and you can begin.
Okay, thank you. All right, I'd like to call this meeting to order. This is the meeting of the Kawartha Lakes Off-Road Vehicle Use of City Roads Task Force. Can I have a motion to adopt the agenda as circulated? Councillor Richardson and Steve Lane, all those in favor? Motion's carried. Okay, can I have a motion to adopt the minutes as circulated? Moved by Dawn, seconded by Caroline. And all those in favor? And that motion's carried. Okay, we're going to jump right into new business. Before we do, I've got a couple of comments and questions I want to ask. So let me put this away for now. And Carolyn, just because I've been asked and challenged on it, can you advise the committee how much you get paid to be the president of CATFA?
I get paid nothing. I have been a volunteer now for about 12 years. I don't make an income from this. I have a full-time professional career. Okay.
So the size of our membership has no impact. You're going to get paid the exact same amount whether we have 10 members or 10,000 members. Okay.
And probably put a lot more hours work in.
Thank you for that clarification. My second question is, can you advise the committee what happens with all the CATFA money, all the money that's raised by selling memberships?
The purpose of the membership, first of all, we don't get grant money from the government in any way, shape, or form. The only time we've ever gotten anything outside of membership funds was we got a $7,500 grant from the city of Kawartha Lakes for building some new trails in the Somerville Forest a few years back. And that's it. That's all we've ever gotten outside of membership dues. All of our money goes back into the sport. In the last 5 years, just the Victoria Rail Trail alone, we've invested over $200,000 in resurfacing and repairs and maintenance. And in the Somerville Forest, probably another $150,000 in those years, in the same 5 years. And plus we have another trail system that we maintain as well. So everything goes back into either the trails, into insurance, because we do provide the insurance for the trails as well, and into promotion and tourism for the sport for the city of Kawartha Lakes. So we attend trade shows and that to invite people to come to the city of Kawartha Lakes.
Okay. Does any of the membership have any questions as far as what CATFA does for the community? Okay. All right.
We have I just wanted to add to that, we have invested a lot of money in rider education as well. We have 5 safety instructors. So we've invested a lot of money in providing ATV safety training to members and their children and grandchildren. So that's where some of our money goes as well.
Now, some of the comments I've received in the last couple of weeks deal with signage. People would like to see more signage, better signage as far as speed limits and so on and so forth goes. Who pays for them?
We pay for the signage. The City of Kawartha Lakes Parks and Rec staff, with regard to trails, they make the decision on the signage. They have the final say as to what signage goes up, but we pay the bill directly to whoever builds the signs. And the same for the road routes through Fenland Falls. At the time, the staff person in charge of those roads designed the signs, ordered them through a company, and we paid the bill directly. So all signage that's been put on the trails at the request of the city staff, we have paid for.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to move on to onto new business. New business recommendations that came forward from the February 25th working meeting, and they were actually tweaked on the 4th. So it's now one set of recommendations. So with your permission, I will go through the recommendations one by one. I will ask that those draft recommendations be adopted. So for purposes, but they're draft recommendations for the purposes of our public meetings. So what I'm proposing is I will read off the recommendations, and then I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, and then we'll speak to the recommendation as we go, if that works for everybody. All right, so I'm going to start off with definitions. For the purpose of this task force, the term ORV applies solely to ATVs and side-by-sides. And for the purpose of the task force, we recognize that ORVs are not to be used for general or are not for general transportation, but to encourage people to enjoy the use of permitted trails. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Don, seconded by Carolyn. Any comments? Okay, well then, just as a general comment, because of the legislation, it's a broader, there's a broader interpretation of ORVs. So we want people to realize that all we're talking about is ATVs and side-by-sides. And we're not recommending that people use their ORVs for the purpose of this task force to go shopping. If I got to go to Loblaws, I'm not, the purpose isn't that I'm going to hop on my ATV and run down to Loblaws to do my general shopping. Okay, so those are the definitions. All those in favor? And that motion is carried. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to move into general recommendations, and we have 8 of them. I think probably the best way is that I read into the record all 8 recommendations, and then we'll deal with them one by one if we need to. And so the first recommendation is to open up all rural roads except those deemed unsafe by city staff and this committee. Second recommendation is to establish a 2-year pilot program to be reviewed and amended after the first year. Third recommendation is permit operation of ORVs on city roads between the hours of 7 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. ORVs are only permitted during the same time period as the trail system, which runs between May the 1st and December the 1st. Require all operators of ORVs to possess a valid CATVA or affiliated membership. Must have a G2 or M2 and proper and valid insurance. Require vehicle license plates and insurance. I've got insurance in there twice, so I'm just going to stroke that out right now. Must have a valid G2 or M2 license. Require all vehicles have license plates and insurance. And number 8, meet all requirements of the HTA regulation 316/03. Can I have a mover and a seconder? Moved by Carolyn, seconded by Councillor Richardson. All right. So if anybody wants to jump in, the rural roads. So what we're talking about is if you live in Seabright, if you live in Bethany, if you live in Pleasant Point, if you live in Woodville, Woodville's still south of County Road 8. If you live in Woodville, we're proposing that those roads be opened up to you, period. And there are some roads that staff is concerned about. And as the bylaws are being developed, if this actually goes through the process and is successful, they will identify roads that due to construction, etc., that they consider to be unsafe, and those roads will not be on. They'll be highlighted and not permitted. The purpose of the number 2, the purpose of establishing a 2-year pilot program means that we're going to run this pilot program for 2 years, or we're recommending that it be run for 2 years. we recognize that there's going to be issues. I think it's hard to say that everything we do is going to be perfect. There are going to be issues that will come to light during the first year. We shouldn't wait for 2 years to fix those. We should be able to react. And when I say we, I am referring to council. This body will make recommendations, but council should be able to react and fix the things that we can fix that need to be fixed. Permit operations of ORVs on city roads between 7 a.m. and 9:30 p.m. That coincides exactly with the use of the trails. And the purpose of this is to encourage people to enjoy the trails that we're currently permitted to be on, and to enjoy those uses. Therefore, the hours of use should reflect that. ORV municipal road access will only be permitted during exactly the same time frame that ORVs are permitted on the trails, which will be from May the 1st to December the 1st. Require all operators of ORVs possess a valid CATVA or affiliated membership. The purpose of this task force was to link the trails where we want people to enjoy the trails. As Carolyn has explained to us, money raised through membership goes back into the maintenance and increasing the accessibility of trails. We think that it's appropriate that those trails, or that everybody has the opportunity to help support that, because it's about the trails and it's about that interaction. Just want to drive home the point that you must have a driver's license. You must have at least a G2 or an M2 driver's license. If you don't have it, you shouldn't be on the trails. You shouldn't be driving. Require that vehicles have license plates and insurance. So we're requiring that they all be registered and insured. And we're requiring that all requirements under the Highway Traffic Act, Regulation 316/03, be met. That's the regulation. Yeah, go ahead.
Maybe we should speak to what those regulations are out loud, what that entails, instead of just saying a number.
Okay, Carolyn, do you want to just jump in there and?
Yeah, I can just add a couple of important points that I'm sure are of interest to people. So valid license plates, insurance, and licensing also follow under 316.03, but more importantly, the requirement to wear a helmet is under that regulation, as well as the minimum age for a passenger, which is 8 years of age in the province of Ontario, and that's the entire province. So those are two important points that are already covered under HTA Regulation 316.03.
Okay. Any further comments? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion's carried. Our next discussion was routes of travel. There are two areas that that the task force considers to be important because they're bottlenecks. We've had recommendations put forward for Bobcaygeon, which I'll do first, and then we can have a discussion or a motion. So the recommendations for Bobcaygeon are to permit operation of ORVs on all roads within the village of Bobcaygeon, save and except Bolton Street between Canal Street and King Street. And the second recommendation is require all operators of ORVs within the village of Bobcaygeon to possess valid CATVA or affiliated memberships. Now, if I can have a mover and a seconder, I think, Steve, you were part of the group that put this together. I'll ask you to speak on it. So moved by Steve Lane, seconded by Don Williams. All those, oh, sorry, go ahead, Steve. Yeah.
No, just, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. In regards to the rationale, of course, Bobcaygeon being a place where I grew up, the tourism package there is very important. And I think that there was some concerns about the between King Street and Canal Street on Bolton Street. But if you look at the aspect of the parking lots in behind that street, it does give access to people from a tourism perspective coming into the community and be able to walk out onto the main street and enjoy the restaurants and shops of the main street. And it also allows us to look at the tourism package, of course, of resorts, and that people booking into resorts and be able to go from the resorts to the trailheads.
Okay. And Don, can you tell me how many trailheads we have up in the Bobcaygeon area?
There's the two main trails from closest to Bobcaygeon. It's a 5 points trail system. So there's one in off of County Road 36, and then there's one off of County Road 49. Those are the two main ones, unless you're going towards Fenland Falls.
Okay. Do we have any further questions or comments on this recommendation? I'll call the question. All those in favor? And that motion's carried. If I go too fast, just let me know. Recommended routes for Lindsay. And I'm just going to read them off. And I think we'll do this in two segments. We'll do the recommended routes, and then we'll do the rest of the recommendations after. So the recommended routes to join the trailhead at the south end at Logie Street, and the north end at Thunderbridge Road. We have two sets of recommendations. We have Logie Street trailhead to Logie Street, then Logie Street to King Street, King Street to Lindsay Street, Lindsay Street to Wellington. It says Queen, but
Queen and Wellington intersect right there.
Okay, all right, so we'll call it Queen. Straight on, okay, so they're gonna go onto Wellington Street to Victoria Avenue, Victoria Avenue to Colburn Street West, Colburn Street West to Angeline Street North, Angeline Street North to the Thunderbridge Road, and the Thunderbridge Road to the trailhead. That's the one recommendation. The second recommendation was starting off at the Logie Street trailhead, and of course it goes in reverse depending which way you're going. Logie Street trailhead, south on Logie Street to Lindsay Street, north on Lindsay Street to Wellington, and then the same recommendations as before. Can I have a mover? Moved by Steve Lane. Seconded by Don. Thank you. Comments? Okay, well, I'll give the general comments, and then anybody who wants to jump in can help me out. The rationale behind the two different routes is to relieve some of the pressure, and it's at the same time to make some of the facilities that Lindsay has to offer available. So the Logie Street to King Street is probably the most direct route. The reason why we're recommending going down King Street is that there's a stop sign there. They would turn right onto Lindsay Street and then turn left onto Wellington Street. There's traffic lights there to protect that transit. And then coming home, it's the same thing again, but they'd be able to, coming off of Wellington Street at the bridge there, they'd turn right, and they would be making a left-hand turn across the Lindsay Street traffic, but it's simply easier to make a left-hand turn when you're already in the lane of traffic than it is to try and cut across traffic or try to enter, which would have been the case if we'd gone down Queen Street. The second route that's being recommended, I've already explained. People coming up Lindsay Street will have access to a Tim Hortons, to the Dairy Queen, to a couple of gas stations, a couple of Max Milk stores or those types of stores, so that they can pick up things as they need. Any further comments on those recommended routes?
If I might, Pat.
Go ahead, please, Don.
Did some follow-ups on the different municipalities that have opened up their access to their municipalities and opened up the roads. Up in the Dorset area, over in the Bancroft area, and especially down, I made a call down into the Campbellford area because of the town of Campbellford. They have bridges and a very busy main street also. After contacting them all, I got the same answer from each and every one of them, that after the municipalities allowed the off-road vehicles onto the streets in designated areas, any complaints that they had in the past from residents about speeding and such, it pretty much all diminished, and everybody is working together, and it doesn't seem to be an issue in any of those municipalities. I haven't called or didn't inform or ask the OPP of any incidents, but talking to their municipality representatives, things have gone well. So I think that the same goes here, that we should try to make some stats up in the next 2 years versus what we have right now and see what the difference might be. So it's just my comments on opening up, especially through the Bobcaygeon area and the town of Lindsay, where, you know, it is populated.
Okay, any further comments?
I was just going to mention too, though, when we had the discussion about coming up these routes, we were trying to come up with the easiest A to B access way, and to, you know, bring a recommendation that would have a positive impact of moving this project forward. So I think those are, you know, key considerations when we've had discussions.
Thank you, Councillor Richardson. Okay, so on the first, on the items of the approved routes through the town of Lindsay, I already have a mover and a seconder, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, I do. Okay, so all those in favor? And that motion's carried. Okay, moving on with Lindsay. Ban operations of ORVs on all city roads within the town of Lindsay, save and except the approved ORV routes. Russell Street from Lindsay Street to Victoria Avenue. Victoria Avenue from Russell Street to Wellington, except during the periods of the farmers market. Cambridge Street from Russell Street to Wellington. William Street from Russell Street to Wellington, and Peel Street from Victoria Avenue to William Street. And okay, operations of ORVs on any city street not approved be prohibited unless traveling directly to or returning from an approved route, and require all operations of ORVs within the town of Lindsay to possess a valid CATVA or affiliated membership. Now, if I can get a mover and seconder, some of that stuff I'll speak to myself because some of it came from me. And moved by Councillor Richardson, seconded by Carolyn Richards. Okay. My rationale is that I just hate having customers so close and not having an opportunity for them to spend some money on Lindsay. And it's just, that's it in a nutshell. By doing that, it opens up the various parking lots. So if somebody wants to go to a restaurant in town, they have that availability. I don't think it'll hurt the system. I think it'll work, and that would be one of those things that would probably want to maybe tweak in January if in fact all these recommendations are passed by council. The recommendation of operations of ORVs on any street in Lindsay not approved be prohibited unless traveling directly to or returning from approved routes. That could be pie in the sky, because I don't know how we would enforce it. And I'm looking forward to hearing comments both from the public and from staff and councillors. I think it's a good idea. I just don't know how you make it work. But I think it's a good idea, and I think it's something that's worthy of consideration. And then number 4, require all operators of ORVs within the town of Lindsay to possess a valid CATFA or an affiliated membership. Once again, this is all about the trails. These aren't vehicles for running about for going to the 7-Eleven or the Circle K or Max Milk. That's not what it's about. It's about going to trails. And if you're going to go to trails, then you need a membership to be on those trails, and it helps support the entire trail system, which supports the city of Kawartha Lakes. So those are my rationales. I think the topic needs to be discussed, and I'm looking forward to a wholesome discussion with both public and council. Anything else? All those in favor? And that motion's carried. Okay, just some general notes so that people will need or might want to know. The CATFA membership is $125 for an individual membership, or $250 per family per year. So that's what the costs are. I was requested to point out the bridge in Fenelon Falls is a federal bridge. So we may or may not have access to that. That's something that we'll have to wait and see. And
sorry, Pat, that bridge is in Bobcaygeon,
yes, yeah.
not Fenelon.
And we just don't know whether or not we'd be allowed to go across the canal there or not. We just don't know. And that would be something we would have to deal with at a later date. So I was asked to point that out to the listening public. Okay, before I go into next steps, is there anything else any member of the task force would like to add? Okay, so I've been in touch. I'm going to grab my calendar here. I've been in touch with the clerk's office, and next steps are our next meeting is going to be a public meeting. We're going to do deputations in exactly the same manner as we did for the budget and for other issues, so that we can discuss these recommendations and receive feedback and then possibly tweak them if we need to. I'm recommending that the meeting be on the 18th, if that works for everybody. Okay, the 18th doesn't work. How about the 19th? 19th works good?
Yep.
Okay, so I'm recommending the 19th of March for a public meeting. I'm going to ask Ashley when she has a chance. I noticed that she's not on the air, but that she prepare a newspaper ad to go out. This is a YouTube meeting, so this information will be disseminated that way. And Sarah and Brianna are going to set up the process for for the meeting. Brianne, do you have information as to how, if I want to attend that meeting, how I have to attend, or is that not available yet?
You would have to register to participate, to be able to speak in the meeting, and we would create a schedule where everyone would be given a 5-minute increment to speak, and then there would be a few minutes back and forth with questions or clarification, and everything would be scheduled. So if people do want to speak during this meeting, they would have to register, and that will likely be through the designated ORV email address, and might possibly be available on the jump-in page as well.
Okay. And I'm sure that if anybody has any questions, they'll email us. Anything else?
Will there be a time? Or will that have to be decided?
Oh, so the 10 o'clock seems to work fine. I would anticipate a meeting from 10 o'clock till noonish is what I would anticipate. That gives us a full 2 hours. And we'll see where that takes us. That could accommodate up to 24 deputants, which I think would give us a pretty fair cross section of what people are thinking. Okay. Can I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Carolyn, seconded by Don. All those in favor? Thank you very much for your participation, and we'll see you at the next working meeting. Thank you very much. Thanks, Brianne.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.
Everybody.